I am live. We are in chapter 5 of Return to Elysium. It is a story of Joan Grant, life as Lucina. She was a writer of her own far memories. This plays in Greece, ancient Greece and Rome in the 2nd century BC. She has lived on Elysium for about 4 years, and she has gone to Rome now with 2 companions, and she's met Salonius. She's now working as a healer for Salonius, but as a healer priestess. We're here in chapter 5 of the 2nd part, entitled The Soothsayer. I had worked with Salonius for nearly 2 years when the most famous of the Roman soothsayers, a man who used the name Calchas, the Greek seer immortalized by Homer, said he wished to consult me. I suspect he has no more than ordinary powers, said Salonius, but I've heard too many stories of the effects he has produced, the influence he undoubtedly wields, not to warn you to be extremely guarded with him. He may be a fraud, and so become a dangerous enemy when he knows you could expose him. And if he is genuine, he will recognize you as a rival and probably try to make sure you are no longer a challenge to his authority. You meant I must not forget that I once fought with a cat of Bast? Exactly. I may be unduly apprehensive, but I shall take such precautions as occur to me. Shall I act as your scribe instead of Iris? If my assistance is required, I may not prove entirely ineffective. If Calchas is only a man who grows fat on credulity, Iris and I will be in no danger. It might make him suspicious if we altered our usual routine, and if he becomes physically aggressive, Lucius is always within call. I accept your superior judgment. I'm grateful for the tact which prevented your pointing out that I should be useless in a conflict which demanded more strength than the muscles of a Lucius can provide. Calchas was younger than I expected, no more than 45, though his hair was streaked with grey. His eyes were blue, pale as the sky in oppressive summer weather. His body lean, showing no sign of indulgence, and yet not arid with aestheticism. I came to consult the oracle of the Tiber, he said smoothly. May I claim the privileges of a fellow... He paused and then added deliberately, a fellow artist. As I did not immediately reply, he made the second move. I use artist in its fullest sense. We interpret the essence of form so that lesser men may see what before was hidden. We can interpret the realities of the world, which is unknown to ignorant humanity. Craftsmen do not require to conceal their secrets from others. You have proved the right to honor in the same fraternity. You have come here to consult the oracle or to talk with Lucina? With Lucina. Neither of us require an intermediary when we wish to consult the gods. The challenge was direct, yet I felt no hostility towards him. Perhaps he was doing the same work as myself, honest when his patience would permit him honesty. I got up from the throne, drew back the thin curtain, walked forward and took my place beside him on the couch. If I had your beauty, I should not hide myself, he said courteously. You would find that Rome is not oblivious to the body, through which the mind expresses wisdom. He smiled, the smile that any man accords to a woman not ill-favoured. This man had not come as an enemy, so what was his purpose? He was clever. Already he had taken from me the advantage of the remote oracle. I was a hostess who had no wine to give her guest, nothing except her wit to offer. I was further disconcerted when he said, wine is only necessary when there is a lack of mutual interest to be concealed. So we do not require Falernion. As we read each other's thoughts so well, we need not concern ourselves with the exactitude of phrases. Therefore I can admit without embarrassment that I came here with a certain apprehension. I feared an uncompromising rival. or to be disappointed. Are you already convinced I'm not uncompromising? Shall we say rather that I'm not disappointed? This suave exchange would have seemed more suitable to a banquet than a temple, but I was not deceived as to its importance. When I first heard of you, I thought that Rome had acquired only another cult. In this I did less justice to the deserved reputation of Salonius, whose intelligence I have always rated highly. I erred only because I did not consider him capable of more than intelligence. Salonius does not lack subtle perception. If he did, could he be so successful? In that recognition you forestalled me. I had become accustomed to regard the knife and the herb as useful, but very limited. You have the advantage of being born a Greek in this generation. Did he believe himself to have been cultured, or only his follower in the same tradition? I had been foolish enough to underrate the integrity of my opponent. With this man, I could not afford to be foolish. Have you no Greek blood? I said. Not in my immediate ancestry, but the factors of hereditary genius do not depend on the paternal loins, nor on the attributes of the physical mother. Those who are born to rule do so irrespective of the race among which they find themselves. Calchas could not accept an oracle wiser than himself, I said. He died, as you will remember, because he could not accept Mopsus as a superior, or even as an equal. I wondered if he knew that Salonius had provided me with this useful information about the real Calchas, who had killed himself after being outwitted by a greater soothsayer on the island of Claros. Perhaps Calchas has acquired additional wisdom with the centuries. I have always been aware that there might be others who could claim the power of Mopsus, and now I am more than willing to work with them, instead of being destroyed by false pride. So Calchas was not immune to the superstition by which he flourished, or had he real knowledge which I must recognize and honor? Salonius had given me every opportunity to work, but he had never been able to share the validity of my experience. He was only one of the many who either believed or disbelieved. Was Calchas perhaps the first friend I could accept as an equal? Again he read my thoughts. The seer is always lonely, except in the company of those who share the same capacities. Are not all rulers lonely? Yes, he said, his voice rang out in the quiet room. We are always lonely. It is our strength, and we must insist that it is also our glory. Suddenly he got up, flung wide the bronze doors, and stood looking up at the moon, which flooded the marble floor and drowned the flickering lamp. There was power in the hands upstretched towards the sky, a radiant vitality. Then his arms fell to his sides. He closed the doors, came slowly back to stand in front of me. Lucina, he said, I came here from curiosity, and then I recognized truth in you. I speak in the name of that truth and ask your understanding. I said that neither of us required any intermediary between ourselves and destiny. But we are both lonely. Is it the secret of our loneliness that we never allow anyone to share our responsibilities until they are so heavy that we are forced to put them down? He was no longer the sonorous voice of the prophet. His was no longer the sonorous voice of the prophet. He was pleading with me, as a friend who sees a danger he cannot fully explain. We both know that we use forces beyond the comprehension of our minds. We can interpret dreams and omens for those we try to help, but we have to discount omens in our own lives. We know we are masters of our destiny, but only providing we retain mastery of ourselves. We ride destiny as our Pegasus, from whose wings we discern horizons far wider than mortality. But if we try to dismount from our perilous steed, he is too strong for us to control. I knew exactly what he meant. We are neither animal nor man nor God. We are a kind of centaur, feared by the horses because we can talk, despised by humans because we have 4 legs instead of 2. We dare not listen to Pan. The music of his pipe might cause us to remember the goat. Lucina, I'm not trying to frighten you. You have helped many people. Will you accept help from a man whose real name is Porgios, whose father was a tanner, and whose mother earned her living as a washerwoman? I accept friendship from a man who knows that we are not bound by our heredity, unless this be counted in the long years. He smiled. For the first time I saw his face as the reflection of a spirit older than my own and equally lonely. Lucina, we have a role to play which is not easy in our generation. Once we should have been priests to whom people came in love. Now we have only a dim light by which to keep faith with our tradition. We wish to inspire love, but we are given homage born of fear. I have so often longed to flee from Rome, to live out the rest of this life as a farmer in clean fields. I've made a heaven for myself to which I escape in dreams, a small house amongst the hills, white oxen, sleek in the sun, vines heavy with good grapes, children who laugh with me, a woman who is content that I am so ordinary a man. There I never have to pretend to be wiser than I am. I never have to be more than the statue to which Porgios was born. I used to dream like that, I said, but the gods were jealous of a girl who aspired to the freedom of Olympus, so they sent her away to Rome. I believe the gods are never unkind if we accept the necessities we have imposed on ourselves. We shall find our heaven, unless we demand it before the time of harvest. The gods are not jealous gods? What is jealousy? The most cruel of all human emotions, the most destructive, the most evil. Jealousy can be either the destroyer or the star by which we seek our new horizon. We recognize something greater than ourselves. If we see it by the black light of our own evil, it is a challenge to our lust for dominance. We try to destroy it and set on our foreheads the seal of the black goat. If we see it as a beacon of a wider company, we hasten towards it in love and find the fire by which the phoenix in us is reborn. You believe that we find our freedom in simplicity, through which we earn our rights to heaven? Porgios, you know something which makes you afraid that I shall be too impatient to wait for a rightful tenor of my dreams. I saw nothing which I can express in words, not even an omen clearly delineated. I think you will soon be given a choice between fulfilling your destiny and trying to escape from it. I believe you will find fulfillment in this temple, and in the escape inevitable disillusion. Can we ever escape from disillusion? Only by holding fast to the courage which accepts reality. No one has accused me of a lack of courage. They have called me a fool and a boaster and an enemy, but never a coward. Do you want to take away this final defense of pride? I want you to cherish your pride. You must learn to love the power you use for the freedom of other people. Is my own freedom not important? I know it's vital to you as mine is to me. At last I have discovered the real motive which brought me here. I wanted to find someone whose authority I could accept instead of always having to make my own decisions. But I implore you not to discard your personal authority. Don't try to escape into blind obedience, to lose your vision in the small complacency of ignorant faith. You think I'm in danger of doing so? He took my hand between his as Asclepius might have done. There is an issue we cannot afford to avoid. You are young and lonely and beautiful. You wanted power, and now you have got more than you need. And you will have found that power is a cold companion. You desire to fulfill your heritage as a woman. If you meet a man whom you believe can let you do so, you will long to escape from the role of the priestess. You will find every excuse for yourself. You will have to find your own excuses, for to you will be denied the exterior strength provided by soothsayers and prophets. We are agreed that most people come to us only to be given the courage to fulfill their inclinations. Of course, if not, why would soothsayers who are only charlatans flourish as much as we, who once were priests? We are not alone in being weary of responsibility. That loneliness is shared by all who, for some forgotten sin, inhabit this planet of exiles from reality. A very few, ask for their dreams to be interpreted, because they want to learn more of their hearts, which have grown cold with much forgetting. But for each one there are 100 who beg us to remove from them the need to use their own authority, by which alone their freedom can be gained. I have tried to make my patients think for themselves, but it is so very difficult, I said. I think I have always been honest with everyone who really wanted to learn what honesty required. How much I sympathize, how often I have cringed before because I found myself paying tribute to expediency, giving false coin because they would not accept the gold which bore another profile than their own. They will pay tribute to any altar which does not make a sacrifice of their beloved complacency. Why do astrologers have so large a following? Theirs is the same power which is used by all tyrants. Obey without question, do not try to fight against destiny. It is not easy to fight against temporal power, but the stars cannot be joined in battle. You will find the dominance of 4 stars everywhere, wherever a race resents the dominance of the mother. And nowhere is the matron more deeply feared than Rome. Blame one's own weakness on the mother. At her greatest ascendancy, which is the moment of birth, the moment of inertia between the dominance of the maternal host by the fetus and the gradual re-establishment of power by the growing child, and you can escape from personal responsibility. The adult finds it distasteful to admit he is still under the influence of his parents, but he is afraid to stand alone. He can no longer blame his mother for his faults, so instead he blames the stars. Men are very lazy in spirit. It is easier to believe in astrology than in themselves. So you have also found it difficult to rescue people from astrologers? I have broken their domination only when I have been able to convince my patients that the price for this tawdry comfort may be their own soul. It's not easy to live by the light of integrity. Until men learn that life can be loved even when it is not easy, there will always be astrologers, and all the other dark altars to the enemies, who laugh behind the masks that men have made for them from their credulity. For the first time I knew from personal experience how a single conversation could break down a barrier carefully constructed against self-recognition. His sincerity demanded my own. Porcius, I'm very grateful that there is one man in Rome from whom I need not hide how difficult it is to keep faith with myself. You will never lose faith unless you forget how desperately we are needed. People come to us because they have so little faith in themselves that even in the quietness of their minds they cannot accept brave truth who dares go naked. It is for us who ride Pegasus to show them both their weakness and their immortality, to make them weigh the one against the other, the return to the brute and the soaring beyond the cold horizons. We can only show them the 2 courses. It is for them to choose. I am not wise as you are wise, Porcius. I can only tell them to follow the heart, which I must believe, is clean, or else condemn them to continue in the service of desire. Ride Pegasus, because we acknowledge kinship with the centaur? He smiled ruefully. You see, I'm not yet free of concepts by which to overcome the circumstance in which I find myself. I even think in terms foreign to the land of my birth, in the symbols of Greece from which I took my name. I was given the name Lucina, but shall I always have the courage to kindle a flame? If it flickers, will you remember Porcius? Yes, I said, I will ask him to remind me that we are pledged to our integrity. This was the end of chapter 5. Chapter 6 is entitled The Slaves. Have a good Friday.